Boys and girls, I hope you've had a great day today. All right, the story that we're going to read today is called Pumpkin Jack, written and illustrated by Will Hubble. He's the author and the illustrator, so he wrote the words and he drew the pictures, just like you do in your writing. Very talented. All right, so today as I read the story, I want you to think about the characters in this story, and I also want you to think about the setting. The setting is where the story takes place. Okay. When Tim carved his first pumpkin, it was fierce and funny and just perfect. A jack-o'-lantern this good deserved a name, so Tim gave it one. Jack. Boys and girls, did you get to carve a jack-o'-lantern for Halloween? Long after the best trick-or-treat candy was eaten, Tim still kept Jack. At night, when a candle made Jack's face dance on the wall and filled the dark with warm pumpkin smells, Tim felt Jack was almost magic. Yet, too soon the spell was broken. So, see in the picture here, Jack, his face is facing the wall and he's got a candle in him so you can see the jack-o'-lantern face on the wall. The spell was broken. This pumpkin is beginning to rot, announced Mom. It's time to throw it out. Tim knew it was useless to argue. He carried Jack to the garden, which was filled with the brown ghosts of last summer's plants. A dead garden is better than a trash can, thought Tim. Still, it made him sad to leave Jack outside and alone. Whenever chores or play brought Tim to the garden, he looked at Jack. Every time, Jack was different. He became wrinkled and his fierce smile began to look silly. So this is where he's rotting and his face is starting to squish up, isn't it? Starting to kind of sink down. Has your jack-o'-lantern done that yet? Oh, look at him now. Mold spread over Jack's bright orange skin. As the days turned colder, Jack grew flatter. Winter began. Soon Jack was hidden beneath snow and Tim forgot about him. The cold, heavy jacket days came. Snowman and sliding days, indoor days, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Valentine's. When all these days had passed and the March winds melted the snow, Tim found Jack. Oh, he found him. He's still there. There wasn't much left. Just a faded and crumpled pumpkin skin, a stem, and a few seeds. Jack's Halloween magic was a distant memory now. Tim scraped a thin blanket of earth over the last bits of his pumpkin. "Goodbye, Jack," he whispered. When spring turned barefoot warm, a tiny sprout appeared where Jack had been. Tim found it and guessed what it was. Okay, there's the tiny sprig, the tiny sprout. Boys and girls, can you guess what it is? What do you think is sprouting there? Let's see if you're right. In the days that followed, Tim weeded and watered and watched the sprout. Slowly and steadily, the plant changed and grew. It branched and spread a web of vines over the ground, but no pumpkins appeared. The days turned hot. Flowers opened on the plant each morning, yellow stars that twisted shut forever in the afternoon. Still, there were no pumpkins. So the flowers look like stars, and then in the afternoon they twist shut like that. Finally, Tim found a little green ball growing behind a crumpled blossom. A pumpkin! Tim let out a whoop and ran to show his mom. By August, the plant had spilled onto the lawn. Tim's favorite game became pumpkin hunting. He carefully waded among the leaves, searching for green pumpkins like hidden treasures. All right, so let's look here. Here is one of the old flowers, and do you see how the green part kind of looks like a little green ball? It starts like that. After the flower starts to die, it turns into that green ball, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and looks like that. Do you think that looks like a pumpkin yet? It's growing. It's coming. School began again, and the days cooled. Tim had less time to visit the garden. When he did, the pumpkin plant seemed tired. There were few new leaves, and the old tattered ones no longer hid the fat green pumpkins. Then, one October morning, Tim woke to see frost coating the garden. The frozen plants seemed changed to pale blue glass. So it's kind of icy. Frost is like it's a coating of ice everywhere. It's not snow. It's kind of like a thin coating of ice. After school, Tim discovered what the frost had done. The pumpkin plant's leaves were as limp as wet paper. It was dying. Tim searched among the withered leaves for the unripe pumpkins. He picked them and put them on the front porch, hoping for one more change. What do you think he's hoping for? A clue is this one right here. What do you think he's hoping will happen there? By Halloween, the pumpkins had ripened to bright orange. It did. If that's what you said, you were right. They turned orange. There were many, for the plant had been generous. Tim was generous too. He gave all away but one. Look at all the happy kids with pumpkins. From jack-o'-lantern to seed to pumpkin again, the circle was almost complete. Now it was time for Tim to do his part. He gave his pumpkin a face. It smiled at him in a fierce and funny way. Tim smiled too and said, "Welcome back, Jack." All right, friends. So first, let's talk about the characters. Obviously, the main character is Jack, right? And it mentions his mom, but it never shows a picture of his mom. And he talks a lot about the pumpkin, but does the pumpkin say anything or do anything? No, I don't think the pumpkin is a character. This is more of a nonfiction kind of fiction. This is more realistic fiction. That means it's more like real life. He's got friends, and then he goes to school and he gives the pumpkins away. So it shows some people there, but are they really part of the story? They're not really saying anything. So I would just call the main character Jack in this story. Let's talk about the setting. The main setting happens, so it happens a little bit in his bedroom, but the main setting of the story is the garden. That's right, the main part of where the story takes place is the garden. So we've got the garden all through the winter and the snow, and then it's growing, it's still the garden, and then there's the front porch, and a little bit of the setting takes place at school, or maybe that's his own front porch. I thought it was the school, but that might be his front porch there, and he's giving the pumpkins away. So just the front porch. But the main setting actually happens in the garden. Let's also talk about the pumpkin for a minute. So a pumpkin starts as a seed, and then it grows into a little sprout. We found that. Remember, we guessed what it was. So the seed has a little sprout like that, and then it grows into a big plant, and then it gets a flower, and the flower turns into the vegetable, which in this case was the pumpkin. And then after the pumpkin gets ripe and you pick it, what comes out of it when you cut it open? More seeds. And then you plant the seeds and start all over again. All right, boys and girls, hope you enjoyed that story. I love you. Bye.